Hello, I'm Fast Lawyer. Today we're going to review Fracked for PCVR, released today, May 5th, 2022, on the Steam Store, Viveport, and the Oculus Rift Store. Yes, they still release new games there every now and then. Fracked was developed and published by Endreams, which has made several other VR games, including The Assembly, Perfect, Bloody Zombies, Shooty Fruity, Phantom Covert Ops, and in my humble opinion, and I have played all of them, I still think Shooty Fruity is their best VR game. Fracked officially supports the HTC Vive Valve Index and the Oculus Rift. You can play this game seated or standing. I did test this game out on the MetaQuest 2 using link cable, and I received this game because I am a paid annual subscriber to Viveport Infinity. Fracked VR is a PSVR port, and I would describe it as an action arcade casual FPS shooter with a story. It does have voiceovers. You basically climb, ski, and shoot. It took me approximately 3 hours to complete the game, and I would definitely say this game is geared towards casual gamers, and this game is probably too easy for hardcore gamers. Fracked is running on the Unreal Engine. On my RTX 3080, I was getting a steady 90 frames per second, and that's very fortunate because there are no graphical settings whatsoever for this game. There are sound settings, and I do recommend turning down the music because it is way too loud by default. You can turn subtitles on or off. You do have full locomotion and smooth and snap turning available, along with comfort options. You can also set the degree for the turn or how quickly you smooth turn, and importantly, you can set your dominant hand to left or right-handed. And the game does have you constantly recentering your position, which is peachy. I did not experience any serious issues or bugs during my playtime. However, I did notice a few issues. The biggest one was that the gun angle on the MetaQuest 2 was just a little bit too high. It wasn't anything too bad. I could still hit targets, but it was noticeable. There were also some pathing issues, along with some issues with the smooth turn. It just wasn't very responsive, and I did notice that sometimes I would pick up a limited use weapon, but it wouldn't have any ammo on it. Now, I have to admit that I did see some PSVR reviews for this game, and it did make me pretty hyped for this game. They mentioned this game was pretty exciting, pretty action-packed, but the story was pretty thin and the game length was pretty short. And I was okay with those shortcomings. I wanted an action-packed, adrenaline-filled experience. But as a PC VR veteran, I have to say, I just don't see it. This is not exciting combat. This is not a good shooter. It feels like a wave shooter. The cover mechanic is not even needed because the enemy AI is so dumb. And there's maybe 3 or 4 enemy types in the whole game. On top of that, you really only have 2 main weapons, your handgun and your SMG. You have this quick manual reload system where a magazine just automatically spawns, and then you just quickly push it in and charge the weapon. You do have some limited use weapons like a revolver, a shotgun, and a grenade launcher, but they have limited ammo, and the sad part is that you never really need them. I just used them to add some variety to the gameplay, but when the ammo is done, the weapon just automatically despawns. You don't have any holsters, you don't have any ordnance other than the environmental exploding barrels, which are seen in almost every shooter now. The only ammo you have to worry about is the one for your SMG, because your handgun has unlimited ammo, and enemies will just literally run right up to you, and the sound mix is so bad that it's hard to tell whether the enemies are coming around you or not, because they do spawn out of thin air. There's also a lot of climbing involved in this game. The climbing is okay. There are some exciting climbing sections, but I wouldn't call the climbing mechanic good in this game. We definitely have much better climbing experiences in PCVR. This might seem very novel in PSVR, but in PCVR, the climbing here is just mediocre at best. The climbing is smooth. It does work without any issues. The climbable portion portions are highlighted for you, which is a little immersion breaking for PCVR. And if it's not highlighted, you just can't climb it, even though it may seem like you should be able to. And finally, we get to the skiing mechanic in this game. I did not like it, and the reason for that is because this game uses head tilt to steer. So what that means is in this game, when you're skiing, in order to turn left or right, you have to tilt your head in order to maneuver around the terrain. And I understand this is an arcade shooter, so a lot of that is done just to get the shooting sections while you're skiing, and you have that momentum, and it just makes it a whole lot easier. However, I've just been playing this game called Snow Scout, and in there you're actually skiing by using realistic hand motions, and then you steer by moving your wrist left or right, and it just feels a lot more immersive than what's here. So this is really underwhelming for me. So this game has shooting, climbing, and skiing, and overall I was just underwhelmed by the gameplay in general. Now let's talk about the positives. I do think this is a pretty good port of a PSVR game, other than some of the pathing issues and some of the issues with the turning and maybe some of the textures being low resolution. Overall, I would say this is a pretty good port of a PSVR game. It looks good in PCVR. It has a very nice art style, and there were no real major issues. There's some nice verticality in the gameplay and some very exciting sections of the game. I would have loved to have seen some graphical settings available, but that's not really a big deal when it runs this good. And I do have to give it props for being something different. It is a pretty unique game. We don't have many games like this, you know, that has a full story adventure where you can get behind cover and with voiceovers. There's just not very many games like that in PCVR. However, I will say I was not a fan of the story. I thought the story was a little bit too generic. It wasn't an awful story, but it also didn't draw me in. Also, I was not a fan of the voice actors in this game, nor was I a fan of the music, and the sound mix I thought was pretty bad. In defense of the voice actors, I will say they had a very tough job with this bad sound mix and with the writing being this subpar. I guess they did their best with the materials that they had, so I really can't blame them. So after hearing my review, I bet a lot of you are going to be very surprised when I say that I do recommend this game on a deep sale only, of course. And the reason I'm giving a positive review and I am recommending this game despite all my negative criticisms of this game is because this game, with all its flaws, is still better than the average Steam VR game, which is sad, I know. I do believe this game is overpriced for what it is. The production values are simply not there. The game is only 3 hours long, so I don't believe it is worth $30, but I do recommend it, and if I have to rate it, I would give it a 6 out of 10. You know, it's really not that bad, and I think if you're newer to VR, you will probably enjoy it more than I did. Anyways, I'm Fast Lawyer. This has been my review for Fracked for PCVR. If you enjoyed my review, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, have a wonderful day and enjoy the rest of the video.
You're going nowhere. They're calling in the leader of the species. There's work to be done.